Hello, welcome to it. This is Do's and Don'ts for Coloring. Take this with a grain of salt. I am not a seasoned professional. I am a mildly spicy professional. This is just purely for educational purposes for people either trying to learn to color or trying to beef up their coloring skills. I'm going to start off with taking this little mushroom baby boy, this little guy. I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I usually do when I color, and I'm using very saturated colors. It's very hard to blend colors together and make them look well together when you're using the ultimate saturation of the colors. I'm also using pure white, 255 white, which also just flattens out the entire drawing gets flattened as most paper is white. This is also why artists use a dull gray background or brown paper, because it helps you see the colors in relation to everything else, because color is relative. So in order to do the exact opposite of what I usually do and show mistakes that I made when I was first beginning, I am doing the sin of coloring, and that is shading with black and gray. A lot of artists I see do this even into their professional careers, but I promise you, it will flatten your drawing. It will make your drawing look murky. The only time you should be shading with black or gray is when you're working in grayscale. I swear to you, I will sell my limbs in order to prove to you that black and gray is a cardinal sin. And I'm basically not even thinking about lighting in this little mushroom man. This poor mushroom guy is a deteriorated little husk of a mushroom. And that's it. I call it a go. This is what I would not do. And that's use saturated colors. Don't think about how the colors are relating to each other, and shade with black. And now we're gonna start doing what I would do and how to think about coloring. I usually don't start with a palette. I'll just go in blind, slap down some color, and roll with it. It's a lot of trial and error. Most of art is trial and error if you really think about it. But I'm gonna, for the sake of education, slap down the colors I'm thinking of using before I color in this little guy. So I slap down a couple pigments of just red. These look like 3 different colors. They are all red. A lot of color theory, it'll show you how to create an entire illustration, which is one phase of color without it looking monotone. Like, instead of it being a color challenge, it'll look like it's different colors, but that black on the sleeve will actually be really dark red. And throughout this drawing, you'll see me edit and change colors as I lie them out on the little mushroom man, just because color's relative, and while it looks good in my brain, and it'll look good in your brain, once you put it down, you're like, I don't know about that color. So I'm slapping down a little light blue here on this little mushroom baby, and I'm coloring him in. And as you go through the coloring, there is always a way to change, and it's always just study work, study artists that you enjoy. See what they color. If you see someone and they got colors going, check out what they're doing, and learn from people you love. Learn from artists that inspire you. But for the most part, it's keep it in the same color realm. Now, I have seen artists whip out beautiful work, and their colors are all over the place. I, being a mildly spicy professional, also have a lot to learn, as assumingly if you're watching this video, you do too. But for me, this is what I do. And as you can see, I tried to give him a little blushies, and I end up just not. I'm like, you know what, he doesn't need to be blushy. He's just a little guy, he's having time. Doesn't need to be blushing here. Something that'll set your art apart, especially in the early beginning, is something called a color hold. A color hold is where you take the black line work of your lines and add a color because it's holding the color. Usually I'll do this on another layer and clipping mask it down, and then I'll play with the opacity of that layer, but it really adds a new level of depth and it's another layer of color. Think about your lines will change the feel of the drawing depending on how dark you make it, what color you make it. I make it a dark purple here, but it's really up to personal opinion. Color is all what you think looks nice, and it being relative to themselves, it's also relative to the viewer. Some people might look at this little mushroom guy and be like, I don't like it, because that's just how it works. I'm going back in here to shade our little mushroom guy with a light blue and light purple. Usually I'll shade with a dark maroon or a dark purple, and I'll set it to multiply and lower the opacity a couple notches, and it is usually 20 out of 10 times infinitely better than shading with black or gray. I promise you that if you don't shade with black or gray, you will live a prosperous day of coloring. It is a cardinal sin to shade with black or gray. I promise. I've seen people do it. I've seen it look good. But shading with color will always look better. It'll always look better. And another thing with shading with color, I'm taking into account a light source here. And by light source, I'm basically just thinking of where the light is falling on our little chunky mushroom man, and then it's giving him more depth, whereas in the other mushroom, I did not think about that at all. I just gave him some little line of depth, which is literally what I did when I was first starting out. If you find my art somewhere, and you scroll back to the depths of 2015, 2002, my art looked just like this little chunky pale baby mushroom man with the blushy cheeks and everything. All in all, the main point of learning how to color is to experiment and try new things. It's very easy to find a comfort zone and live in there. I very much color with a lot of purples and blues, but sometimes I'll tiptoe out, try something else, maybe hate it, maybe tiptoe back into my little blue-purple hole. But if I didn't try the blue-purple hole in the first place, I wouldn't have found out that I loved it so much. This has been Do's and Don'ts of Coloring, or Coloring, Don't Do It. I'm just kidding, please do it. I love colors. Hopefully this helped somebody out, and if not, then we both wasted approximately 8 minutes of our lives. But hopefully not.